When you think of Disney, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? For some, it may be the iconic castle. Others may think of their famous resorts. But the majority probably think of this. This is Mickey Mouse, or at least the first version of him, which was actually under the name Steamboat Willie. And you own him. Sort of. You see, on the first day of every year, also known as Public Domain Day, all pieces of content that were submitted for copyright 95 years before expire and become free for the entire public to use. And this year, despite extensive efforts from Disney, the world received Mickey. But not really. As I said, the public domain received the first film for Steamboat Willie, which is technically a different character than Mickey Mouse himself. Regardless, as soon as the new year hit, hundreds of pieces of media with remarkable resemblance to Disney's first movie began popping up. Most notably, a comedic slasher movie titled Mickey's Mousetrap, a video game that's coming in 2025 that's currently in the top wishlisted games on Steam, and even a bump on Adult Swim's official TV channel. We saw a parallel effect last year when Winnie the Pooh hit public domain, and we saw an influx of content being made around that character. But the legality around Steamboat Willie is much more complicated than it seems, and to understand why, we have to first look at the lengths Disney has gone to push this off for as long as possible. The Walt Disney Corporation has been trying to keep Steamboat Willie under their belt for years now, even going as far as getting United States laws passed so they would be in possession of the character for longer. The first federal copyright law in the US came into existence in 1790. It guaranteed 14 years from the time of recording, with a possibility for renewal for 14 more years if the author survived. Although this law was so old that it didn't even protect all forms of art, such as painting, musical recordings, and in this case, movies. This was then changed in 1909 and switched the 14 years to 28 years. So with a renewal, a copyrighted piece would be protected for up to 58 years. This would mean originally Steamboat Willie should have gone out of copyright in 1984. But Disney began to make serious efforts with Congress to further develop the law and extend expiration times. And in their defense, it did sort of make sense, as there had been no changes to the law in the last 67 years. And the world, along with technological advances, had become an entirely new place, including more common new forms of media like film, TV, and radio. All of Disney's efforts would pay off in 1976 when Congress enacted a new Copyright Act. The act allowed published works to be under copyright for the entire lifespan of the author plus a half-century more. Due to this, Mickey Mouse was now protected until 2003. But that raises one question. If that was true, why didn't Steamboat Willie enter the public domain in 2003? Well, because Disney hated the idea of letting their first animated movie go, and they were trying to squeeze every last little bit of profit from the 80-year-old film. So as 2003 grew closer and closer, Disney yet again went to Congress to further extend the copyright. And their wishes became a reality once again when Congress enacted the Copyright Term Extension Act of 1998. But most people know it today as the Mickey Mouse Protection Act. It retained the copyright to the author's lifetime plus another 70 years, and for works of corporate authorship, like with Disney, the act allowed 95 years from the work's original publication or 120 years from the creation. But even after all this, there's one small detail that might make Steamboat Willie untouchable for the rest of time. You see, in 2007, Disney Animation Studios' logo was updated to include a small clip of Steamboat Willie, and fortunately for Disney, there's no expiration date on trademarks like there is for copyright, meaning technically anyone using the same clip that Disney did in the logo can still have their video taken down. But in the grand scheme of things, the multi-billion-dollar company really is nothing to worry about, owning some of the largest franchises in the industry, including the MCU, which almost every movie surpasses the $1 billion mark, the Avatar franchise, which grosses over $2 billion per film, Star Wars, which has generated $29 billion just in merchandise alone, and countless others. Still, it'll be interesting to see what the world does with Steamboat Willie and other massive IPs that will have their time in the future.